Imagine a tool that can find that data, summarize it, show you all where all those issues are, collate it, learn from multiple patterns of data and say, well, I think this is what you meant. Is this what you meant? And think of a team of 30, 40 people trying to do that. I'm not saying it's magic,
right?
But I've never seen better tools for solving these problems than exist today.
Welcome to 5 Minutes, your quick dive into the wide-ranging world of insurance, technology, and leadership. I'm Miguel Edwards, and I'll be your guide as we explore these topics that are transforming not just the insurance industry, but the business world at large. Along with sharing observations I've made over the span of my career in insurance, technology, and operations, I'll be chatting with some of the brightest minds in business and leadership. Whether you're a seasoned executive or a rising star, an industry expert, or just curious about how technology is revolutionizing insurance, this is your perfect spot for your weekly dose of insights. This is 5 Minutes.
So David, welcome to 5 Minutes. Thank you for making the time to join us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Miguel.
Awesome. Well, there's a question that I like to ask all my guests because there's usually an interesting story.
Okay.
How the heck did you get into this industry?
I think with most people, the insurance they don't pick it, it picks them, right?
Exactly.
So typical, got out of college with a bachelor's, but a minor in computer science.
Okay.
And the integration company I happened to get with, a lot of the gigs just happened to be insurance companies. And after a while, that's where your expertise is. And you know what? It's actually pretty darn exciting when you think about it. You know, it's not something I would have thought about right out of college, but really enjoy working in the insurance industry and glad to be a part of it.
That's exactly right. I share the same thoughts, David, because I find I fell into it by accident as well, and I call this industry sexy. Sexy.
Okay.
Yes,
that's good.
Yes,
sexy.
Because there's just so many interesting dynamics. And look, all the bald guys were bringing sexy back.
Sexy back. I like that. I'm going to use that going forward.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Absolutely. Good deal.
Yeah.
So David, why don't you talk me through your transition? Because it's fascinating how you carrier CIO, and now you're working for an insurtech.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit about that.
Happy to. Really enjoyed my time as a carrier CIO, but I saw a number of common themes and problems. And one of them happened to be in the core policy admin space with life and annuity, the fact that I just wasn't seeing enough innovation.
Right.
And was really complaining actually to a friend about the challenges with these platforms and how they don't seem to solve the fundamental problems that are out there. Well, just so happens a group that I had worked with on a newer era of platform a number of years ago, I got to look at what they were doing, and I absolutely fell in love.
Really?
So I said, sign me up, let me help you take this to market. And that's how I got there. Just found a group of people that are solving this core issue in a new and very interesting way, and what I call a way of achieving really sustainable speed to market versus get something in and then clean it up over the next 10 years, which seems to be the trap we always seem to be in with these new platforms.
Well, we call that the MVP now.
Yeah.
Right. We call it MVP, and then for phase one, and then there's always this phase two that lasts for 10 years, right?
You know, there's nothing wrong with MVP as long as there actually is something behind those next phases. But I think a lot of companies fall into the trap of getting that in and then never getting the value beyond that, right? You want to get in fast, but you want to have that sustained approach.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So these folks that intrigued you, these are the folks at Penn River that you joined.
Penn River,
Awesome.
my co-founders.
Love that.
My co-founders.
So give me, what was it that excited you about it? What's that unique value proposition?
Yeah, well, you can imagine folks that have done this 3 times now.
Yeah.
So they were part of 2 successful policy admin builds before. And so they saw what worked, they saw what didn't work, and able to take that into a modern cloud-based core platform. And really, one thing that's unique to us is we can provide that innovation very specific to a carrier without jeopardizing the viability of the platform and ending up with a custom platform that can't be upgraded.
So it can scale.
So we can run in the cloud. We can allow a carrier to really innovate on our platform and still take releases and still still ride our innovation,
Okay.
but also ride their innovation.
Okay.
And the platforms that are out there, they might be able to get you up pretty quick. They might run in the cloud, but you're really forced into their model of how to put up a product. And oftentimes you have to get in line and wait for their people
Right.
to put that product up.
Right.
And we have a way where we can, through a partner ecosystem, through using our tools, that we don't become the bottleneck, and we give you the best of both worlds. The innovation of our platform
Right.
and the innovation of the carrier.
Got it. Awesome. David, you're forcing me to remember my time as a CIO of a life company. And I remember, the holy grail was really wrapped around NIGO,
Right.
Kind of resolving that, or maybe kind of digitization of the APS and, MIB, RX, all of that stuff, right? What is the innovation that you guys are seeing in the life space now? Because that's a fascinating element for me.
You know what? That's still around, and
Is it?
that's getting better and better. Now we're bringing AI to NIGO. We're bringing AI to underwriting. We're bringing AI. When I say we as an industry, right? We're bringing AI to that quarterback coach. It's not replacing the human, but it's driving a lot. It reads those APS statements.
Right.
Before we ship that to a lower cost offshore environment.
Right.
Now AI can read that for us and provide that information and that assist. So a lot of that's going on. So there's a tremendous amount of innovation going on around that area. There's innovation in the core platform in our space.
Right.
So bringing that digital process all the way through from front to back.
That makes
really.
sense.
So
you made a comment in there, David, that I picked up on that we call human in the loop.
Right.
But to the audience that's listening to this,
Right.
and they heard you talk about AI in the underwriting process,
Right.
I could imagine concern. I could imagine,
absolutely.
we've lost control of this thing. The computers are doing it. Assuage that concern for us.
For the foreseeable future, it's human in the loop, right? You do not want to have AI make that final decision, right? But AI, imagine somebody who can instantly correlate, make sense of data right beside you and instantly read those statements, instantly summarize, instantly sift through tons of data and present it to you. Imagine the boost in performance that can bring. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what AI is about, at least who knows where it's going to end up.
Sure.
I think the potential is limitless.
Yeah.
But for right now, there's viable use cases to be had with AI providing that co-pilot assistance through everything from a marketing process to servicing and support, through underwriting. There's very viable use cases out there, and companies doing it today.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So I'm hearing really force multiplier. That's how we're using it. Force
absolutely.
multiplier.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good.
I think people get hung up and, it's going to make all my decisions.
Exactly.
I'm not smart enough to tell you how far it's going to go, but I can tell you there's real viable use for it today.
Yeah, 100%. That makes sense. One of the challenges, though, David, that I feel like we've been dealing with for multiple years. I've been in the business for 25 years. You've been in the business for a while. What is it going to take for the industry to move past some of the same narrative that at least I think I've been talking about for the past 20 years?
My goodness.
What does it take for us to move past that narrative?
Oh, that's a great question.
Maybe
that's my next startup, right?
Right, exactly.
So, I think there's got to be a paradigm in shift in thinking. Right?
Okay.
I mean, let's face it. One of the things that happened during COVID is all of a sudden we realized we can do without paper, right? Could we have done about it before? This push, this fast push to make these more rapid changes, right? And I think we're seeing that with AI and all these other tools. So I think the limitation is really the mindset of our industry. Really, it's not the technology. It's not what could be. It's our own limitations and how we're individually incented throughout our organizational structures. Right, to make that happen. That's our limitation.
Yeah, we seem to be incentivized. I'm thinking about my carrier executive experience to ensure stability.
Right.
To not rock that wagon too much, right? That type of thing. Yeah. And we've got to change that. We've got to push
how long have we been talking about the underserved market? Out there. And when you look across the globe and you can see people doing things and getting insurance on their mobile phones, small face mounts and all that. There's no reason we could do some of that in our industry today. But what would that insurance company look like? What would their profitability ratios look like? How would they look? Right? the technology's there, is the desire there to go after some of those markets and make them attractive.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
one of the opportunities that I think we might have, David, and I think there's kind of like a dual purpose here. I think about the firefighting that we do in IT.
Right.
I think about, we're consumed by, just the kind of the run, the maintain, the modernization, the patching, all of that stuff. Is there an avenue for us to leverage some of this technology and innovation to perhaps deal with some of the firefighting so that we can focus on higher order issues?
I think here's the biggest challenge I see with that, especially the larger the carrier, and these are 150-year institutions, right? They've built up a lot of technical debt and a lot of processes. So the moment you take some new technology and you try to integrate it into the old, that's where you run into all those challenges, right? And if you really optimize the whole thing, if you've optimized part of it, I think there is an opportunity, and there's a lot of startups out there tackling that, and we're working with some of them to say, hey, why don't you try to test and learn and put this product outside of that huge technical debt that you've got? Why don't you try an innovation platform, right? And leave where you are, work on that technical debt, but instead of trying to do something really innovative inside this really calcified structure, why don't we look at a end-to-end holistic new structure for launching? And I think we've seen some success. I won't name all the names out there. I'm not going to shamelessly give somebody else a plug, but I do think there are a number of startups out there. Some have been doing this for a couple of years now, trying to provide an innovation platform. We're fortunate enough to be plugged into a couple of them.
Got it.
And I think if you really want to innovate and get away from the technical debt and the calcification, that's one of them. Otherwise, you're really going to need incredibly strong sponsorship. Right? Now, another thing I've seen is carriers that actually will spend the investment to go into that calcified structure and start separating those physically tied together systems through APIs, putting them into integration bus and uncoupling all of that. Method. Those, and that's another great way to succeed, but that takes a lot. You got to go to the CEO and say, look, you can't put an ROI on this. It's going to take a few years, but down the road, this is going to pay huge dividends. So let me separate my architecture so I can plug in new things easily. Companies that really plan for that can have a really good outcome internally. Companies that don't and can't get out of that might be best to look at these innovation platforms.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. David, we've been talking about the retirement tsunami that is coming and the changeover of talent. How is all of that going to interplay with the industry's adoption of technology and or its intransigence, either one?
Well, I think we have no choice. We've seen this coming. We've been talking about this for 20 years. We've been talking about this, right? All that knowledge retiring. And I think it's really going to force us to adopt a lot of these new tools, right? These knowledge-based tools, automation, different ways of thinking about the agent force. At one point, we thought maybe, they're going to get disintermediated with these new technologies. Well, that didn't happen. So we know we need our agents, right?
Exactly.
How do we make them smarter, better at dealing with what they're doing? And so, okay, maybe our agent force is going to be less than what we had hoped for, but through automation tools and AI and all these other tools, maybe we can make them a lot more efficient at what and attract that younger generation as well. So we do need to attract the younger generation, but I also think we've got to deal with a shrinking workforce, and we've got to capture that knowledge as it goes out the door. We've never been in a better place to have tools to do that, but carriers have to really plan for that. And I've seen a lot more talk than I've seen action on that part.
For sure. Yeah, that makes good sense. Last question for you, David. What is exciting you? And I'm glad to have a life person here, because so much of the P&C really dominates the show most of the time, right?
Yes, it does.
So tell me what's exciting you on the horizon from a life perspective that we should kind of be looking out for. Crystal ball that.
It again, I don't know if we're going to label this sexy, right?
Let's label it.
So we have been locked up in these older platforms. We have got probably $1 trillion or more in assets in these old platforms. Some of them that are still around for the 1960s because we can't figure out an ROI to convert them. I've never seen a better opportunity and more excitement around using some modern tools like AI and all that, not to automatically convert, but just to get that data, discover it, get it to a point where we can put it into new platforms. I think we're on this cusp of figuring out how to retire some of this technical debt and accelerate and provide a proper AI or ROI, to this whole process.
Let me make sure, that's a really important point. Let me just make sure that I caught that right. So the way I interpreted your statement, we've always had a data issue, has always been the major block around modernization, migration, et cetera. You're saying that with the technologies, AI, data technologies, all of that, we are on the cusp of being able to solve that problem.
Put a huge dent in it. Absolutely. Everybody has dirty data. Everybody has issues with it. The tools out there, there's still human in the loop. There's still some work, but imagine a tool that can find that data, summarize it, show you all where all those issues are, collate it, learn from multiple patterns of data and say, well, I think this is what you meant. Is this what you meant? And think of a team of 30, 40 people trying to do that, and think of a tool that can bring that to light in a matter of minutes, right? There's still hard work involved. I'm not saying it's magic, but I've never seen better tools for solving these problems than exist.
David, thanks so much for your time.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining this episode of 5 Minutes. If you've enjoyed our discussion, we'd love for you to share it with anyone else you think might find it interesting. Also, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on and hit that bell to stay on top of the game with our practical 5-minute episodes. We look forward to seeing you again next week.